everyone, and welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I am your host, Stan Rattan, and this is the Blue Collar Wine Show, where I try to help you spend your wine dollars wisely. I'd like to give a quick shout out to Mike Burns, a good friend of mine. He's moving on to Backwoods Brewery. He was a sales manager for Dickerson Distributing. They're going to miss him. Hold on one second. Told myself I wasn't going to forget to turn on the mic. I did. There it is. We're on. Okay. So anyway, he's moving on. We had a nice a little dinner together the other day, and he left me some. We tasted through some nice wines. I know he's going to miss the wine business part of it for sure, but you know, kudos for him for moving on and doing something that he really loves. He's been in the beer business a long time. Also, I'm sure he will make Backwoods Brewery out of Carson, Washington, a huge success in the state of Washington. You know, I know a lot of you do not prepare way ahead of time for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is not that far away. It's November. It's early in November now, but it's just a couple of weeks away, really. And I was just talking to somebody at the store about this. It's pretty interesting that a lot of people do not prepare for Thanksgiving, or wine-wise, do not do anything until like 3 days before. And I don't know why that is. And he said, well, maybe it's because they're buying the food and they think, oh, we need some wine. They do, you know, a lot of people don't have a cellar, don't store away a lot of wines, which is, you know, understandable. But you know, the thing about wine and Thanksgiving is, if you're having a lot of people over, like we probably have around 10 at our house for Thanksgiving, and you don't want to spend a huge amount on the wine because you're having a lot of people. And the interesting thing is, like at my house, there's not a ton of people in the group that drink wine, which is interesting, but it's true. And so you're having your relatives over, you're having people over, you know, you don't want to pull out your best stuff, but you want good stuff for the turkey. And one of the things that you can do for Thanksgiving is Pinot Noir. One of the reasons Pinot Noir works is because it's very low in tannins. And turkey and tannins don't necessarily work well together. Some of the elements, of course, of Thanksgiving do work with tannins. But anyway, Pinot Noir is a great match because it's light in style, usually lower in alcohol, so you don't want to get heavy with the alcohol, although I love Zin with Thanksgiving. We'll probably have one of those. I did an episode on Zinfandel, and it's really one of my favorite wines with turkey dinner. You just have to be careful because it is, you know, you can get up into the 15.5 range in alcohol. So we're going to get started right off. One of the things you do have to watch with Pinot Noir is it can become acidic, and if it's too acidic, you know, there are some savory elements to Thanksgiving. It can work. There are also some elements that don't necessarily work with high acid. So it's one of those kind of balances you have to strike with Pinot Noir. Anyway, let's get started right off the bat. Terrapin Cellars 2013 Oregon Pinot Noir, Willamette Valley. This rolls in at $14, so a very reasonable price for Pinot Noir. A lot of people go to the Willamette Valley. It you know, became famous for Pinot Noir in a competition over in Paris. No, that was a different competition. There was a competition over in Europe, and Irie Pinot Noir beat out some Burgundies. Came in first place or second, can't remember. I think it was first. Anyway, no tablecloth. I'm going to go the little noisier route. I hope it doesn't bother you. If you want to make comments, say you like the tablecloth, don't like the tablecloth. I really like my bar. I like the surface of my bar. I hope you enjoyed that little teeny snippet of my party I do every year. I said it was my birth year. I meant my birth month. Don't know. Sometimes, you know, when you're having a little bit of wine, we were having a good time. Thought we'd shoot a video, show the top 3 wines in a blind tasting I do. I do it every year. I love it. I love sharing wine. It's not intended to be a party for me. It's more of a, I call it a celebration of friends, life, and wine. And there's nothing better than sharing wine. I know a lot of you agree with me on that. Let's see what we get on the nose. Now, I've had Terrapin in the past, not found one that I like. I'm hoping the 13 was a good vintage, so getting a little bit of bark, which is interesting, a little bit of red flower element coming through. A little muted on the nose, just mostly bark and red flowers. A little bit of tea, getting a little tea component coming through. Like I said, not a lot going on the nose. Let's see what we get on the palate. Kind of excited about that. Nice Asian spices. A lot of strawberries coming through with a little tiny hit of cherry skins, but not red cherry, more dark cherry skins coming up underneath. A little bit of sarsaparilla, a little root beer coming through. I like a good weight in the mouth. It's got acid, but it's not high in acid. It's got good balance. I like it very smooth. I like the spice element at the end. When you're doing Thanksgiving, of course, spice doesn't hurt because, you know, I mean, stuffing, all that stuff you do with... just remember that cranberry sauce does not go with any wine, really, if you think about it. So if you're a big cranberry sauce person, you might want to wait until you get something savory in your mouth for when you start drinking the wine. But what a classic meal to do wine at. I think Thanksgiving is the quintessential wine and food pairing next to Christmas with the prime rib. But you know, it really is true. A lot of people, when they're having Thanksgiving, wine is, I don't know if I can go percentages because I didn't do any research, but I'd say at least 80% of people want some sort of wine with their Thanksgiving meal. So nice balance, good fruit, strawberries, tea, get a little bit of black tea going through. I'm going to go B- on that. I think it's a really good wine. I think it's well above average. I think it's a good play for 14 bucks. I might even hedge towards a B. So we're going to go B- B on that. Like that wine quite a bit. That's Terrapin Cellars 2013 Willamette Valley Pinot Noir. All right, let's move on. Shout out to Kui, the new, I think she's the regional sales rep for Duck Pond and Desert Wind out of Washington. Really like Kui. She's a really neat person, and she's going to do a good job for these guys. This is the 2014 Duck Pond Freese Family Cellars Pinot Noir, Willamette Valley, Oregon. This rolls in at $19. So again, very reasonable price. Pinot Noir from Willamette Valley. There you go. Good label. They've changed their label recently. I think they did an excellent job. It's always nice when they improve it rather than go backwards, which I don't know where these guys hire their label designers, but sometimes, whew, they go backwards. So Willamette Valley is now has a ton of subregions in it. They've divided it up a little bit so that they can get more specific terroir in that area. But when they source it from all over the Willamette Valley, they call it Willamette Valley Pinot Noir. And one of the more famous areas in that is Dundee Hills, which has gained a lot of recognition for producing some really good Pinot Noir, kind of like Santa Rita Hills out of California. This has a little bit of a like beauty bark on the nose, which I find very interesting. Get a little spice, like baking spice action. Out of cherries and strawberries coming through on this one also. A little perfume, like that soap perfume that I get so often on wines. Not a bad thing. Don't think about the chemical side of it. Just think about that aromatics that come out of those, those little, cutesy little soap bars that have good aromas to them. Get a little tobacco on this too, which I always like to get tobacco on my wines. Let's see what we get on the palate. A little more acidic than the Terrapin. A lot more acidic actually. But nice, like really ripe cherry skins come through. Like when you're biting into a cherry. I love the cherry skin of a really good ripe cherry. A little bit of root beer coming through. tobacco for sure. This has a lot of tobacco on the mid palate, actually. Nice little, like a little bit of good glycerin. By the way, Hawks play Arizona at home this Sunday. It's gonna be a tough game. I'm not even gonna give a prediction on that one. Nice little spice. You get a lot of white pepper and Asian spices on the finish, which is everything you want in a Pinot Noir. Nice and light, good strong flavors. I'm gonna go B on this wine, hedging towards B+. I think it's a really good Pinot Noir. Classic Pinot. Good enough acid, but not so high that you know, it's very approachable now. Actually, this Pinot, 2014, which is, by the way, a great vintage, a little bit warmer. But for those guys who know how to harvest grapes, that doesn't matter if they pick it at the right Brix or sugar level. Don't mean to use geeky techno words on you, but that's what Brix means, is a sugar level. Then you end up getting a real balanced Pinot Noir, and a lot of the winemakers like 2014 for that very reason. It is kind of important, if you're interested in wine, even a tiny bit, is to pay attention to vintages. Just Google it. You know, just Google what was the 2014 vintage like in Oregon, and you'll get some good information. Vintages really do play a key role in, I think the wind was picking up, that's what caught my attention outside. Vintages play a key role in Pinot Noir from Willamette Valley. Actually, a lot of regions, it plays a key role. 11 was a tough vintage. It showed in a lot of the wines. So 14, good vintage, great wine. 2014, it will lay down for at least 5 to 8 years. It will become much better. For 20 bucks, when you get a wine like that, that's pretty impressive. Let's move on. Now we're going into Cali. This is Merica Pinot Noir Central Coast, 2012. There we go. Barely can see that. That's crazy. 2012. This rolls in at $13. Central Coast Pinot Noir. There you go. You know, I mean, Pinot, we all know, took off because of Sideways. It's actually kept its momentum, which I'm very impressed. I love that movie, that it got people drinking Pinot. That was, I don't think that was the intention of the movie. Especially since they dished Merlot and then they drank it at the very end in that brown paper bag in the burger joint. Some people sometimes miss the irony of Hollywood. All right, let's see what we get on those. Central Coast, not necessarily an area known for Pinot Noir. When they put Central Coast, it's a big area. There are areas in the Central Coast that, more specifically, that produce some really good Pinot Noir. But let's see what we get on the nose. This has a little stink action, which is kind of curious. Now, when we say stink, well, sometimes it can smell just like poop. This goes more like towards what am I trying to say? Like a wet leather that's maybe been wet too long. You know, it's kind of that kind of stink. It's not really terrible. My cat's looking at me like, are you going to let me out? We have a cat, TC. We don't know how old he is. We kind of adopted him, and he's the coolest cat ever. Come here, TC. Oh, he thinks I'm going to let him out. Come here. Come here. Come on. Nope. Always like it when my animals come in my episode. 3 cats, 2 dogs in my house. Yes, we like animals. Getting definitely a cherries on this one. Almost a candy-esque sort of thing coming through. Getting tobacco for sure. Get a little bit of cinnamon, which I find very intriguing. Let's see what we get on the palate. Oh, now he wants out. Come on, come on. He's doing it. You can do it, TC. Let's go. We did it, yay! Crazy cat, love the guy. Anyway, this is an interesting wine. It's a little bit funky, a little bit awkward. Very mouth-puckering acid, which isn't a terrible thing for Pinot Noir, except it's got like this real kind of herky-jerky thing on the palate. I get like a little tobacco, but then that acid takes over, and then there's a little bit of cherry, and then the acid takes over. There's a little bit of bark, and then the acid takes over. This is a 12, which was a great vintage all over the... Might be a little youthful. I'm not going to dish on it too much. I get some spice at the back end. Very high in acid. Not a wine I would recommend for Thanksgiving necessarily, especially if you have a lot of different palates. This is one that would only be very specific type of palate. This is a guy that likes high acid. I know Maddie would love this wine. Shout out to Maddie. Chuckanut Bay Distillery. I did an interview with him. He loved acid wines. So some people would like this. I think it might improve with a couple of years. I don't think it has the weight though of fruit to really improve that much. I'd give it just a couple of years. If it doesn't improve, not worth it. Right now, it's okay. I'm going to go C minus on that wine. Not super excited about it. Let's move on. 2012, again, this is from Monterey, Irony, Small Lot Reserve Pinot Noir, Monterey. This rolls in at $13, so same price. Be curious to compare these two. There you go. Monterey is a great place for... actually a pretty good place for Pinot Noir. They get some, cooling from the ocean, nice warm days, cooling at night. Always a good combination for Pinot Noir. Let's see what we get on the nose. A little bit of root beer, a lot of root beer actually. Kind of like that. And it reminds me of that root beer, those little barrels, those little candy barrel root beer, remember those? You pop them in your mouth. It has that smell big time. And cherries. So it's like you took those root beer barrels and you kind of, dissolve them in cherry juice. That's what I'm getting on the nose. A little bit of tobacco and bark, this is an interesting nose. Yeah, let's see what we get on the palate. Little California Sunshine love handles on this one. Get a little bit of that fatness from the warmer weather, but very nice Pinot Noir. I mean, this is one of those like 85% Pinot Noirs. You sit down at the table, you have a lot of people there, they're all going to like it. They might not even think about it. They're just going to quaff it down, and at the end you go, well, what did you think of that Pinot? It was a good wine. It has a lot going on. It's very smooth, good acid, a lot of cherries. The root beer comes through on the palate. There's an interesting apple component, kind of on the back of the mid palate, kind of hits you right at the roof of the mouth. Get a little bit of apple component coming through. But like I said, very smooth, good long finish, a little bit of tobacco and bark on the finish. I like this wine a lot. I'm going to go B plus on that Irony for 13 bucks. For 13 bucks. This might be the one you want to seek out for Thanksgiving if you're going the Pinot Noir direction. Very reasonably priced, very good Pinot Noir. B plus. I think that's great balance. Yeah, good Pinot. Like it. Let's move on. This is Duckhorn's second label called Decoy. This is their 2013 Sonoma County Pinot Noir. Another great place to grow Pinot Noir in the Willamette Valley. This is 25 bucks. So you're getting out of the budget range here, maybe for some of you. Maybe some of you, 25 bucks is, affordable wine. I mean, this would be kind of like if you had, for me, if you had special people over that really like wine, I'd go 25 bucks. Might pull out some of my better Pinots from my small, modest cellar, but they better like, if I'm going 25 bucks, I better have people that really like wine and would really appreciate it. Let's see what we get on the nose. So Duckhorn Winery, very well-known, respected winery in California. They do some great Napa stuff, of course, Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon. They're very famous for that. They do they one called Paradox, red blend that I sell quite a bit of. Let's see what we get on the nose. Wow, interesting. That I get almost like like pencil shavings, like when you're grinding. I do a little pencil sharpener and get that kind of pencil shaving. Almost a beet element, like cherries and beets. Little restrained on the nose. Very interesting nose though. I get there's just a hint of tobacco coming through. Let's see what we get on the palate. Very curious. Very, very polished. It's like very slick across the palate. But some really deep, interesting dark fruit notes. I mean, it's sort of a potpourri of cherries and bark and beets, and I get a lot of beet action, a little bit of tobacco coming through. It seems like there's even some currant notes coming through, just barely. Maybe some ripe strawberries right in the background, like really ripe strawberries, like to the point almost rotten, but not rotten. You know what I mean? Just that really concentrated, strong strawberry flavor with cherries and currants and bark and tobacco and good acidity, but very well integrated into the fruit. This would not be hurt to be decanted just a little bit to allow those layers of flavors to come out. This hasn't been open that long. I try to emulate what people will do in real life, and in real life a lot of people just, they're cooking dinner, put it on the table, 15 minutes later everybody's drinking it. This is a Pinot. And once again, what I'm saying is, if it's a little bit of special dinner, maybe a smaller crowd, maybe you want to buy a couple of bottles of Decoy Pinot Noir, 50 bones, on your table, you have people that really like wine, serve this one first, and then go to the lesser wines next. Whatever you want to do, this is a quality Pinot Noir. I'm very impressed with it. I really am. Not because it's Duckhorn. That has nothing to do with it. In fact, when you see this is a true, for me, this is how it works with me. When I see a label that has a good reputation, I expect more out of it. So I'm very critical of that wine. This is 25 bucks. It's from Duckhorn. They should be able to produce some good wine. Well, my friends, they did here. They really made a good Pinot. I'm very impressed. This has a lot of stuff going on. A lot of stuff. Finishes out nice and fresh. Still, the flavors linger. I get that black tea bark, maybe a little bit of Asian spice at the end, which I like a lot. A little bit of white pepper coming through. Good bottle of wine. I'm gonna go A- on that Pinot. I think it's a very well made Pinot Noir. I like it. I'm not gonna dish on Duckhorn. They did a good job here. I've had Duckhorn wines that I don't like, This one I do. I think it's a great job. Thanks for watching. And if you keep watching, I'll keep helping you spend your wine dollars wisely.